In the fading light of a relentless New Mexico sunset, where the desert winds whispered secrets through the parched earth, a lone farmer named Elias trudged across his barren fields, his boots kicking up dust that clung to him like forgotten regrets. The sky bled orange and red, mirroring the ache in his chest as he spotted a small figure collapsed near the edge of his property, a boy, no more than 10, his skin bronzed by the sun, his breath shallow and ragged from what appeared to be a venomous snakebite. Without a second thought, Elias scooped the child into his weathered arms, his heart pounding not from fear, but from the sudden intrusion of life into his isolated existence, racing against the encroaching night to save a stranger who would unwittingly shatter the walls of his solitude forever. If you believe in the power of kindness and the beauty of second chances, hit that like button, drop a comment below sharing your own story of unexpected compassion, share this video with someone who needs a reminder of humanity's warmth, and don't forget to subscribe to Moments of Love for more tales that touch the soul. Elias had come to this desolate corner of the world years ago, fleeing the ghosts of a life that had crumbled under the weight of loss and betrayal. Once a thriving rancher in the fertile valleys of Colorado, he had built a home with his beloved wife, Maria, their days filled with the laughter of children they dreamed of having and the simple joys of tending to their land. But fate, cruel and unyielding, had stolen Maria in a tragic accident during a fierce storm, her horse bolting in panic and throwing her into a ravine where help arrived too late. The grief had consumed Elias, turning him inward, driving him to sell everything and retreat to this forgotten farm on the fringes of Apache territory, where the soil was stubborn and the neighbors were shadows on the horizon. He worked from dawn until dusk, his hands calloused from plowing fields that yielded little more than thorny weeds and sparse corn, his evenings spent in a creaky cabin staring at faded photographs, the silence broken only by the howl of coyotes that echoed his unspoken loneliness. Friends from his old life had tried to reach out, but Elias pushed them away, convinced that attachment only bred pain, his heart a fortified fortress against the world. The boy he found that fateful evening was different, though, a spark of vulnerability that pierced through Elias's defenses like a ray of light through storm clouds. As he carried the child back to his cabin, the weight in his arms felt both burdensome and strangely comforting, reminding him of the children he and Maria had never had. He laid the boy on his own bed, the rough blanket smelling of earth and solitude, and drew upon half-remembered remedies from his ranching days. With steady hands, he cleaned the puncture wounds on the boy's leg, sucking out the venom as best he could, then applying a poultice of crushed herbs gathered from the wild edges of his land. The night stretched on endlessly, Elias sitting vigil by the bedside, wiping the boy's fevered brow with a damp cloth, murmuring words of encouragement that felt foreign on his tongue after years of speaking only to himself. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he fought the urge to give in to exhaustion, his mind racing with memories of Maria's final moments, how he had failed to save her, and now, in this desperate hour, he poured every ounce of that unresolved anguish into willing this stranger's son back from the brink. By morning, the boy's breathing steadied, his eyes fluttering open to meet Elias's with a mix of confusion and gratitude, a silent bond forming in that quiet exchange that neither could yet comprehend. As the sun climbed high, casting harsh shadows over the arid landscape, Elias prepared a simple broth, feeding it to the boy spoonful by spoonful, watching his color return to his cheeks. The child, whose name Elias would later learn was Tarak, spoke little, his words a melodic blend of Apache and broken English, but his gestures conveyed thanks in a way that transcended language. Elias felt a stirring in his chest, a crack in the armor he had worn for so long, as he helped Tarak to his feet and guided him outside, where the boy pointed insistently toward the distant mesas, indicating his home. Reluctantly, Elias hitched his old mule to a cart and set off across the rugged terrain, the journey fraught with the perils of uneven paths and lurking wildlife, each jolt of the wheels a reminder of his own fragility. Hours passed under the blistering sun, Elias's shirt soaked with sweat, his muscles aching from the effort, but he pressed on, driven by an inexplicable sense of duty that chipped away at his isolation. When they finally crested a hill overlooking an Apache encampment, nestled in a valley guarded by ancient rock formations, Tarak's face lit up with joy, and he leapt from the cart, running toward the cluster of tipis where figures emerged, their voices rising in alarm and relief. The reception was tense at first, warriors with stern faces and feathers in their hair surrounding Elias, their eyes narrowed in suspicion at this outsider who had appeared with their chief's son. But Tarak, limping forward, recounted the tale in rapid Apache, pointing to Elias with emphatic gestures, describing the farmer's heroic intervention. The crowd parted as a towering figure approached, Chief Kale, a man whose presence commanded the wind itself, his weathered face etched with the lines of battles fought and wisdom earned. He listened intently to his son's words, his dark eyes shifting to Elias with an intensity that made the farmer's heart race. In that moment, under the vast blue sky, Chief Kale extended his hand, a gesture of profound respect, and though no words were exchanged directly, Elias felt the weight of unspoken gratitude settle upon him like a warm blanket. He turned to leave, his mule plodding back toward the lonely farm, but as he glanced over his shoulder, he saw the chief watching him, a thoughtful expression hinting at something more to come, a seed of change planted in the dry soil of his life. The next morning dawned with an unusual hush over Elias's farm, the air thick with anticipation he couldn't quite place. He rose early as always, tending to his meager crops, his mind replaying the events of the previous day, the boy's recovery, the journey to the encampment, the chief's piercing gaze. Loneliness had been his constant companion, a shadow that lengthened with each passing year, manifesting in the empty chair at his table, the unshared sunsets, the nights where sleep evaded him amid echoes of what could have been. He had convinced himself that this was his fate, a penance for failing Maria, for not being strong enough to hold on to happiness. But as he straightened from pulling weeds, a distant rumble grew, dust clouds rising on the horizon like an approaching storm. Elias shielded his eyes, his pulse quickening as a procession emerged, Chief Kale at the lead on a majestic horse, flanked by warriors, and behind them, a group of 20 young Apache women, adorned in vibrant beads and feathers, their faces painted with symbols of tradition and beauty. The sight was surreal, cinematic in its grandeur against the stark desert backdrop, the horses' hooves thundering like a heartbeat amplifying Elias's confusion and awe. Chief Kale dismounted with graceful authority, approaching Elias with a purposeful stride, his voice booming across the fields as he explained the purpose of this extraordinary visit. In the ways of his people, a life saved demanded a debt repaid in kind, and for rescuing his only son, the chief offered Elias a choice that would mend the fractures in his soul. Select one of these brides, each chosen for their strength, kindness, and spirit, to become his wife and companion. The women stood in a semicircle, their eyes meeting Elias's with varying degrees of curiosity and warmth, representing not just potential partners but a bridge between worlds long divided by history and mistrust. Elias stood frozen, his world tilting on its axis, the offer stirring emotions he had buried deep, fear of vulnerability, the ache of longing, the flicker of hope that perhaps life could offer redemption after all. He wandered among them, his steps hesitant, engaging in quiet observations that revealed glimpses of their personalities, one with a gentle smile that reminded him of Maria's warmth, another with eyes fierce like the desert storms, each a testament to the resilience of their culture. The choice weighed heavily on Elias, building suspense in his mind as he grappled with the implications. Could he open his heart again, risk the pain of loss in a union that crossed cultural chasms? Memories flooded him, Maria's laughter echoing in the wind, the empty years that had hollowed him out, the boy's fevered night that had reignited a spark of purpose. He struggled inwardly, pacing his fields under the watchful eyes of the chief and his entourage, the sun beating down as if urging him toward decision. Hours stretched into an eternity, Elias's thoughts a whirlwind of doubt and desire, until finally, his gaze settled on a woman named Lyra, her quiet strength and compassionate demeanor resonating with the parts of him that yearned for healing. As he pointed to her, a collective murmur rose from the group, Chief Kale nodding with approval, sealing the moment with a ceremonial gesture that blended Apache traditions with Elias's simple life. In the days that followed, Lyra's presence transformed the farm from a place of solitude to one of tentative harmony. She moved with a grace that brought life to the cabin, teaching Elias the songs of her people while he shared stories of his past, their union a slow dance of mutual discovery. Challenges persisted, the cultural differences sparked moments of misunderstanding, the harsh land tested their resolve, whispers from distant townsfolk bred suspicion, but through it all, Elias found himself changing, his heart expanding to encompass not just Lyra, but the extended family of the Apache tribe that now visited, sharing knowledge of sustainable farming and ancient wisdom. Tarak became like a son to him, playing in the fields that began to flourish under combined efforts, the once barren soil yielding bountiful harvests as if blessed by their unlikely bond. Elias's struggles faded, replaced by a profound sense of belonging, the loneliness that had defined him dissolving like morning mist under the sun's embrace. Years unfolded like pages in a cherished book, Elias and Lyra building a life rich with love and purpose, their home echoing with the laughter of children who carried the blood of two worlds. The farm prospered, becoming a symbol of unity in a divided land, inspiring others to bridge gaps long thought insurmountable. Elias often reflected on that fateful sunset, how a single act of kindness had rewritten his story, turning despair into a tapestry of redemption and connection. In quiet moments, he felt Maria's spirit smiling upon him, as if affirming that love, in all its forms, was meant to endure and multiply. If this story of unexpected love and profound transformation has touched your heart, reminding you of the miracles that kindness can unleash, please like this video, share it with those who need a spark of hope, and subscribe to Moments of Love for more emotional journeys that celebrate the human spirit. Before we end, I'd love to hear from you. Comment below with the line that moved you the most, and let's keep the conversation going about the power of second chances.